This is Cycle 1 Science weeks 21 and 22. The materials, it's mineral identification. The materials you are going to need are from your science bins, and there's a bunch of rocks. There's about 10 of them that are in your science bins. There's steel nails in your science bins, like this. There are some little glass tiles, like this, in your science bin. There are the streak tiles, like this. Some pencils, your science journals, and then there's should be 8 for each class, your mineral identification sheet for the students, and then your script. So for our class this year, we had a snow day on week 14, so we did not do the week 14 science experiment, and so we're going to start, since this is a 2-week, since this experiment or observation is a 2-week program, we're going to do, and it relates to week 14, which we missed, we are going to do week 14 first. Week 14, so go ahead and grab your script from your folder for week 14, watch Dana's video on it, and really all it is the streak test for week 14 with it's the same thing. We're going to do it again in this one, but she goes into a little bit more detail about the streak test and why they do it and all that kind of thing. Week 14 has 2 experiments. You do not have to do the second experiment, just do the streak test portion of that week. And then when you're done with that, then you're going to come and you're going to do this script. So this is weeks 21 and 22. So depending on how long week 14 takes, then you will just go through this, and then you're just going to go through this script for however much time you have, and then whatever you don't get done, you're going to start that up in the following week, and you're going to finish it next week. So I'll go through both weeks 21 and 22, and you will just get through it as your time allows. So the purpose of our science experiment these 2 weeks is to identify minerals using 6 different tests. And what have we already learned? We've learned about rocks in week 14, the 3 kinds of rocks. And so there's a little bit about rocks and minerals and explaining what minerals are, kind of a whole list of what they are, and then a little cute question and answer thing. What's a mineral? Is a cow a mineral? No, and why? Tree, no, because they're living. And it kind of gives on here why this list of maybe 10 things isn't a mineral. Is snow a mineral? Yes, it fits all the tests for a mineral. So go through that to kind of get them thinking about what is a mineral. And then we're going to say, what do we still need to find out? We're going to find out with all these rocks what kind of minerals they are, doing these tests that we have. So there's 6 different tests that they're going to do. There's going to be the color. Minerals can have more than one color. As you can see, there's a bunch of minerals here. And then we're going to go through the transparency, whether a mineral or whether one of these lets light pass through it. The luster that describes, the luster, like if it's shiny or not, that kind of thing. Habit is the general appearance of shape. And streak test, which was the week 14. We're going to do the streak test with all of these. And then the hardness, test the hardness of each mineral. Other tests that could be done that we're not going to do today are, we could, like how does it feel? How does it smell? Does vinegar, how does it react to an acid like vinegar? Kids could put vinegar on these and see if there's calcium in it, if it's magnetic. Is it radioactive, and does it conduct electricity? There's some other tests out there, but we're just going to do the 6 kind of easy ones. If as a tutor you think that you want to, let's say for week 22, you have a lot of time left over, you could bring in some vinegar, bring in a magnet, and you can run those tests on it as well, kind of depending on time. There's a short video, it's about 5 minutes long, that you can show your students, and it's perfect. It goes through all the tests I'm going to demonstrate right here, and I thought it explains it really well, so you kind of know what you're looking for, because some things I'm like, huh. So there's also a shorter video too. You can pick which one you want to show, if you want to show the shorter 2-minute video or the 5-minute video. And then after the video, the students are just going to get their mineral identification sheet. They'll each get one, and as of now, we only have 10 rocks. There might be some more rocks somewhere, and if there are, in the past I think we've done stations with a bunch of rocks, but there's really only 10. So you're just going to have your students take their sheet with their pencil, if they're old enough to write, and they're going to take their first rock. So this first rock is called calcite, And you know because it says in the thing, it's the top one here. And so the first test is going to be the color and a streak test. And on this sheet here, there's a mineral identification sheet. This tells you kind of real quickly, you know, what the color test and streak test is. What's the color of this mineral when you look at it? Well, this one's pink, so easy. And what is the color of this mineral when you do the streak test? So you'd write pink is the color, and then you would do the streak test, and you'd put it on here, and you can't see the streak, so it's white is the answer. So they would write pink, and the streak is white. The next test is the transparency. How does this mineral allow light to pass through it? So the options are opaque, translucent, or transparent. And so it kind of says it all here. And so I think this one is translucent. Sunlight passes through, but you can't see through it clearly. That would be my guess. And so then you're going to write translucent. The next test is luster. How does this mineral reflect light? Is it glassy, metallic, dull, pearly, or waxy? And so then you kind of just, you know, the kids are just going to look at this and they're going to, you know, guess the luster. Let's say it's glassy. And then, you know, and they're just going to make observations. And the whole point is to make observations. What do you think? And what do I think? And this is, you know, we're observing each rock. Then the shape, form, or habit. How does this mineral look when it's in a solid form? Is it granular, massive, crystalline, rosette, bladed, or tabular? Explains what all of those are. And if you can see grains on it, it's granular, and you can see some grains on this, so this would be granular. Hardness is what these are for. So there's a whole scale. It's called the Mohs hardness scale. And so it tells you, like, you can try to scratch it with your fingernail, because if it scratches with a fingernail, then it's like a 1. If it scratches with a steel nail, here's a steel nail, that's what this is for. If you can kind of scratch it and it does not scratch, so there's no scratch, so that means the steel nail I think it means that this is harder than the steel nail. And then this, you take the glass round, can you scratch the glass round with it? And then you'll kind of, oh, it does. So you can't, I don't think you'll be able to see it, but you kind of put it on there, and then you'll be able to see so that it does scratch the glass round. So this is harder than a glass round, and a glass round is like 5 to 6. And how you know what each of the numbers are is on here. It kind of tells you, like, 1 is tall, and tells you what some of these already are. So a quartz right here is a 7. So if you took the quartz out and you scratched it with the quartz, we know this is a 7, we know. And so if this scratches it, this is harder because this did not scratch it. This scratched this. So if you take this and you put it on here, it's scratching it. So we know this is harder than the quartz, and the quartz we know is a 7. So that's kind of how you do the scratch test. That's the quartz. And this is another one that is, this is a gypsum, which we know a gypsum is a 2. So the 2, it does not scratch this. This definitely, this is the harder one, scratches this. It kind of flakes off. So that's what you're going to be kind of doing with the hardness test with all these things, is you're going to do your steel nail, your glass, put it on here, see if it scratches. You could use the other minerals to try to scratch. Some of these minerals are pretty, they're softer, like the mica mineral, and it's, I think, a number 1. So it will for sure, you know, this is quite flimsy. So it'll for sure, try not to ruin the minerals, since 2 classes are doing them, and over 2 weeks. So be a little careful with some of the minerals that are definitely softer. And then breakage. Does this mineral break along a flat surface? We're not going to break these because, like I said, you know, if you wanted to see what the breakage is, we wouldn't have much of it left. But you could kind of take a guess. Like this one obviously is not going to break in crumbly form. It's probably going to, if you really broke it, it would probably break in half. Like if you had a hammer and broke it, it would probably break in like clumps. So I would guess that this is like a cleavage versus fracture. So those are how the tests are. The video that you're going to show goes through what I did, and I think better. And then I just read through this and went through each one. If you need more information, these sheets are in your science bins, and they kind of go in more detail what each test is. I just thought it was super busy and kind of like too much information, and you didn't really need all of it, whereas this Nicole Liam's kind of just breaks it all out, puts it on one nice sheet of paper. But if you had a question and wanted to look at ahead of time with some of these rocks, you could look through in more detail and see, oh, okay. And there's also the answers, because frankly, some of them I don't really know. I'm like, what is this? So it'll be fun for the kids to kind of, they can make their own hypothesis, and they can figure out, and they can say, you know what, I think this is, you know, opaque, and this someone else is going to say, I think it's transparent. And so, you know, we're just beginner mineralogists and making our own guesses. We don't have a lot to compare it to. So here are the answers of what they're supposed to be, what the hardness is, and that kind of thing. So you're going to go through each of these rocks, and if you have more time, I think a lot of kids have rock collections at home, and so they might, or minerals, so they might want to, you know, bring stuff in, since this is a 2-week program, and they can bring stuff in for the next week once you go through these and say, and then there's space down here for them to add their own rocks from home, and they can try to decide, you know, what is in some of these rocks, you know, the hardness and what the certain colors are of them, and kind of go through it. So when you're done with that, there is, you're just going to kind of make all your observations, and then I have a little devotional at the very end in conclusion about, you know, the Lord as our rock. And there's so many references to God as the rock in the Psalms and throughout Scripture, so there's a little devotional to end on the second day. If you have more time, you could take, I think what I would do is I would take these and I would tape them into your science journals, because otherwise I'm just going to lose them. But you could just even fold them in half and just do something so it stays in there. Or you could, the scissors are there, you could just cut it and tape one, you know, one on each thing or whatever. But, you know, put them in your science journals, and then they will be ready to go for the kids to take home. All right, hopefully that works perfect for you, and if you have any questions, let me know.